Texas Stadium, Irving, Texas, on a night following perhaps the most important political debate in many, many years. There's a sellout crowd expected to watch the game of pro football. Such, I suppose, is the nature and the flexibility of our country. And tonight, an important game as Dallas tries to stay with St. Louis and Washington in the NFC East. New Orleans within range of San Francisco in the NFC West. This ABC Sports exclusive is being brought to you by Computer, a business computer that's everything you would expect from NCR. The Dallas Cowboys, their 25th anniversary, their silver anniversary. They have an honorary captain for each of their games this season. Our colleague Don Meredith is down on the field right now. 9 years he played, and I'll tell you, he's got the scars to prove it. They were the building days, the franchise expansion days, and being welcomed by the Cowboys of 1984. A struggling Cowboy team. There he is, right out of SMU. Fresh, smart, bright. Didn't know whether he wanted to be a lawyer or a minister. So he settled for the booth. 9 years. He took the Cowboys to their first 2 NFL championships, and he is quite a piece of work. Hello again, everyone. I'm Frank Gifford, and along with Don, we'll be working with O.J. tonight, watching the Dallas Cowboys 4-3, tried to stay with Washington and the St. Louis Cardinals in their division. While the New Orleans Saints, they are really struggling. But one of the interesting aspects of this game for me tonight, there will be 3 Heisman Award running backs performing on this field tonight. Tony Dorsett, of course, for the Dallas Cowboys. Well, he's an exceptional player. He is back on stride again with 2 good games in St. Louis and against Washington last week, even though they were in losing efforts. And for the New Orleans Saints, they got the baby Bulls, the big Bulls, if you will. They have Earl Campbell acquired in a recent trade, and, of course, they have the great George Rogers. The man who sets that record for a season's rushing record of 2,003 yards, O.J. Simpson. Tell us a little bit about these 2 backs, O.J. They are really something in the same backfield.
Well, I don't think you'll see them much in the same backfield. Of course, there's not enough footballs in New Orleans to give them both the ball, and neither one of them have been noted as great blockers in the past. But it should be exciting when you add to the fact that you're looking at 2 of the worst defenses in football and their ability to stop the run. As a matter of fact, New Orleans is last. They're 28. And the Cowboys aren't much better. They're 2 places higher. They're 26. But when you have big names on the field, there's normally some other player who steps forward and becomes the star. My choices tonight would be Hokie Guyjon, number 46 of the New Orleans Saints. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry, and he's had a habit of making big nights on Monday night. And on the Cowboys, I would say Tony Hill, number 80. He's been out with a shoulder injury. He has a hip problem, but if he can loosen up that hip, I expect him to make some big plays here tonight. Dorsett, Campbell, Rogers, Frank, I think they're ready to run, so why don't we get them started?
And here's a man who is ready. Bum Phillips has always kept this game in perspective during his 7 years with the Houston Oilers and now in his 4th year with the New Orleans Saints. And here's a man, the only coach the Cowboys have ever had. You've heard it so many times. Second winningest coach in the history of the NFL, trailing only the legendary George Halas. But he's struggling this year, as are the Houston Oilers. There was the first controversy that was generated here in Dallas and has been building for over a couple of years. This man came up in 1980, didn't throw a pass in 80 and 81. 82, he performed well in a playoff game against Washington, and Tom Landry decided to start him at the beginning of the season. That did not set well with a lot of Danny White fans. Richard Todd, a #1 draft pick, was traded to the New York Jets to get this man. And then last week, he started, and all of a sudden, Bum Phillips went against everything he had ever preached about having one quarterback. The second series, he brought in Kenny Stabler. The third series, he brought Todd back. He alternated through the entire first half. Some interesting aspects to this game. The Cowboys, to your left, ready to receive. Gary Allen is deep, and it'll be Morton Anderson to get things underway. From Texas Stadium, on a cool night, temperature 54 degrees, we are underway, and here comes Chuck McSwain. And McSwain out over the 25, near the 28-yard line, taken out of bounds there by Jimmy Rogers. And out comes Gary Hogeboom. I told you he opened the season replacing Danny White. All Danny White had done was taken the Cowboys to the NFC title game 3 out of 4 years. Hogeboom had his best game of the season in a game we called for you against the Rams, our opening Monday night game. In that particular game, he was spectacular, over 300 yards, 343 to be exact, a touchdown, and he was victorious. But it has been a struggle. The Cowboys have lost their last 2. On 1st and 10, Tony Dorsett over the left side, oozing and creeping as he does so well, and then accelerating as he gets out over the 35-yard line for a gain of about 6. Defensively, the Saints are hurting. Derlin Moore, their fine nose tackle, has been trouble all year long with ankle and knee problems. Bruce Clark also has had trouble over the defensive left end position. There are your linebackers. So we should see a lot of changes tonight for both teams. The Cowboys seem to think that it's their offensive line, and it has been troubled indeed by many injuries. We'll elucidate those for you a little more into the game. Right now it's 2nd down and 4. Hogaboom back and looking and fires a shot over the middle that Tony Hill holds on to. You talked about him in the opening, O.J. He makes a difference.
Yes, he does. He certainly will help them loosen up this defense somewhat. The defense have been much maligned for their inability to stop the run. And I think they're thinking about it. They actually had a cornerback blitzing on that play. And as you see, Tony Hill runs a relatively safe pattern. A little turn in here. Had a little trouble grabbing the ball, but he's been rusty. He's been out for the last few weeks.
He was out 5 games. It came back last week against Washington. He caught 9 for 134 yards. He makes a different Cowboy team, Tony Hill, on 1st down and 10. There was a mix-up in the snap from the center. Tom Rafferty and Gary Hogaboom. The grand old man is Kenny Stabler. Proved last week he could do it, alternating in the first half with Todd. Came away in that game looking like he could continue to play in this game. Now in his 15th season. Of course, so many great years with the Oakland Raiders. There was a loss of a couple. It'll be 2nd down and 12, and we watched 2 tight ends come in. Cornwall, the rookie out of USC, and Doug Cosby, of course, is in there as the starting tight end. Hogaboom back to the original line of scrimmage, and he is hammered there by Dennis Winston. Not one of your Heisman Award-winning running backs. Hogaboom.
No, he's not. You know, they'll say, even though this Saints team is number 2 versus the pass in the NFL, most people will say that, well, who wants to throw against them when they can run on them? And it's a misleading statistic. I disagree with that because they have 28 sacks. So that tells us something. That tells us that they play some pretty decent pass defense.
Danny White, did we mention him? Tom Landry made the decision, a critical decision, one that was totally unexpected from Tom Landry, to put him on the bench for Hogaboom on 3rd down and 10. Hogaboom, he has a strong arm, and Tony Hill dances into the sideline, comes down with both feet, gain of 15, and Dallas keeps their drive alive at the 32-yard line of the New Orleans Saints.
Well, Tony is looking good right away. I saw him in the warm-ups, and it appears that hip pointer had bothered him a lot. As we look at it on reverse angle, as Captain Meredith comes into the booth.
Watch the way Tony Hill knows exactly where that sideline is. He concentrates on the ball. He knows he has to have both in bounds, and he does it beautifully. Welcome back, Captain Don. We have a 1st down and 10. Dallas on the move. Dorsett. He has the great speed to get outside, even when the play is called inside, and Dorsett turned what appeared to be a loss into a gain of a couple. And Captain Don, tell me about your thoughts, your memories as you walked out on that playing field. Well, we'll hear you as soon as we get all of our plumbing taken care of. Give you a chance to consider that question. I know how emotional you are. 2nd down and 8. They have marked it at the 29-yard line. Ron Springs, number 20, in there with Tony Dorsett. Those are the setbacks, and Springs just pops right through the middle, and he's very close to a 1st down near the 21-yard line. Springs, who came up in '79, has developed into a complete football player. Good receiver, good blocker. I think you're with us now, Don. No, you're not with us. And it is a 1st down. There is Ron Springs. 5th round pick in '79 out of Ohio State. Had a kind of a injury-riddled year as a senior, but as a junior in 1977, he was the leading rusher for Ohio State. 1st and 10. The 2 tight ends again for Dallas. Dorsett inside the 20. Hammered there. Derlin Moore underneath. Bruce Clark closing down from outside. Gary Hogaboom. He had that big game against the Rams. And then he also had a 300-yard day in a win over the Eagles, but that was 5 weeks ago. The Cowboys have lost their last 2. They haven't lost 3 in a row since '79. Dallas right now 4-3 on the season in the NFC East. Washington, defeated by St. Louis today, is 5-3. St. Louis is 5-3. Dallas can make it a 3-way tie in the NFC East with a win tonight. Ninth play of this drive, and again, trouble pulling away from the center by Hogeboom, and flags are down at the line of scrimmage.
Well, the defense moved, the offensive moved, everybody moved but Gary Hogenboom.
Our referee tonight is Pat Haggerty. Again, a sellout crowd here at Texas Stadium. Capacity a little over 65,000. Here's Pat. Indication was preliminary that it was New Orleans offside. While they sorted out, I'll tell you, New Orleans in the NFC West is 3-4. San Francisco, of course, threatening to run away with that at 7-1. Here's Pat.
94, offsides.
That was Jim Wilkes, the right defensive end, offside. San Francisco 7-1 in that NFC West with New Orleans. The Rams, of course, will meet Atlanta tomorrow night. We'll bring you that game. The Rams are 4-3. Atlanta is 3-4. So New Orleans, with a win tonight, will move into a third-place tie or a second-place tie with either the Rams or Atlanta. Second down and 3. Hogeboom lays in the grass, and the whistles blow, and the sack will be allowed at the 21-yard line. It will be third down and 10. Ricky Jackson, one of the really good linebackers in football. O.J. was
one of the best I've ever seen. He plays run real well, and last year he had more sacks than any linebacker in football. He had 11, led the NFL from his position. Does a super job of jumping over the offensive blocker and getting into play.
Are you with us, Don?
Hello, football fans everywhere. Yes, I am here. It was, we got a ball. Did I tell you that it was going to be tails? Call the toss. Hey.
You showed me the coin. It was both tails.
Won the toss.
Well, we know the visiting team calls the toss.
Oh, okay. Well, it was tails, though.
Practicalities. Third down and 10. And Hogeboom will run from the shotgun.
Oh.
And a ball that is batted away. And that will bring up fourth down. And in all probability, Rafael Septian is off to another big year in the field goal department for Dallas. Rafael, 12 of 14, has had a 52-yarder this year and a 51-yarder. Second most accurate field goal kicker in the history of the NFL, trailing only Ralph Benushka. Hope you watched some of the action during the course of the day. A great game between San Diego and the Raiders. And we're going to be talking about that at halftime with Jim Lampley from New York. Chargers could have lost two key players. Kellen Winslow injured, and Wes Chandler. This will be a 37-yard attempt, and Hogeboom will place it down. Yes, he is accurate. Septian gets 3 for Dallas from 37 yards out as they go on a sustained drive. 9:48 remaining in the first quarter. We'll be back in Irving in a moment.
All right.
And like I said, this is a very flexible country. We're going to be also, with our highlights at halftime, be bringing you a poll conducted by ABC News to see what a cross-section of the country felt about the debate. Interesting night. Very important political decisions perhaps decided and made this evening. Dallas leading 3-0, and Septian puts it in the air. New Orleans will have their first possession, and Tyrone Anthony will bring it out of the end zone. Spins off a Cowboy out to about the 18-yard line. Bill Bates, and they love Bill Bates down here, came up as a free agent 2 years ago from Tennessee, and he is a heavy hitter. Was injured much of the early part of the year, but he's back. Richard Todd comes out. They gave a first-round draft pick to get Richard Todd. Has not been one of his scintillating starts, passing just under 49%, 5 touchdowns, but he's had 10 interceptions. That's an average of 1 every 15 attempts. The league average is 1 every 26. There's the offensive line. Chris Ward at left tackle, of course, played for so many years with Richard Todd. He was acquired by the Saints just at the beginning of the season. Quarterback, of course, hands off to George Rogers. And there is one of the Heisman Award winners. And one has to wonder, as we look at the defensive unit, very familiar names if you follow pro football, O.J., the feeling of George Rogers when they brought in Earl Campbell.
Well, you can tell he wasn't happy about the situation. I think it's pretty well understood around the league that during the offseason, if Earl Campbell in the second half of this season play up to the ability that he has, that George Rogers will probably be trade bait.
Whoa. Well, that's a heavy statement.
Oh, whoa.
Second down and 6. Rogers got 4. Todd, Rogers, great running out over the 30-yard line. He is a real horse.
Well, if
Came
he
up out of South Carolina with that Heisman Award, and he is really something.
Well, if he likes New Orleans and he wants to stay there, all he has to do is continue to run like this, and he'll never get Earl off the bench. I don't think anyone has ever doubted his ability to run the football. They said he didn't block so well or catch passes too well, but of course that's the same rap that they have on Earl Campbell.
And O.J. Simpson.
Oh, look out.
Hey, well, I heard it. I just heard it.
Oki Gaijan is in there. He'll be the blocking back primarily for George Rogers. This is Gaijan, however, running, and this is a young man who came out of LSU 3 years ago and has really made a football player out of himself. And there, of course, is Earl Campbell. Back in, I think it was 79 or 78, O.J. He came within 70 yards of your one-season career rushing mark of 2003. But he has been battered and beaten.
That was before I got the voodoo doll out.
That was it. As he came in the trading deadline, he was in one series last week for the New Orleans Saints. Earl Campbell was. He gained 19 yards on 5 attempts. Gaijan got 3 at 2nd down and 7. Rogers left side again and taken from behind by Randy White, one of the greats who've ever played this game, looking to become a 7th consecutive year All-Pro. We're going to pause 5 seconds and allow our stations all along the line to identify themselves. It'll be 3rd down and 1. Cowboys, I know all were watching Washington and St. Louis today. The game piped in here to Dallas. Cardinals looking awfully tough. And the Cardinals and Washington now 5-3 in the NFC East. Trying to go over the top is Wayne Wilson, and no, he did not get the first down.
That was a good defensive stand. When you think Dallas, well, they second to the last against the run, and the Saints were last. I think I read that somewhere. That's so unusual for a Dallas team. But most teams have been running on them pretty well this year.
Dallas is 13th against the rush last year, even having a tough season. They were 2nd, and we have an injured Cowboy that is down on the field, and I think that's Billy Cannon. There he is, number 52, the rookie first-round draft pick. Great credentials out of Texas A&M. We'll be back with a further report on Cannon. The billing.
Oh, now that's all.
You don't like the billing.
I'll tell you, I can recall the many years that we met this man down here. Came up in 1960.
Right.
I mentioned you. We couldn't decide whether you want to be a minister or a lawyer.
It didn't take long. I got it figured out. I really did. Billy Cannon seems to still be down there. Kind of unusual.
You hate to see that, and it's very unusual in that short yardage type of play. We'll get a report. We'll pass it on to you as quickly as we can. Meanwhile, let's take a look at what transpired around the NFL today. That's the game I spoke of a moment ago. Neil Lomax at quarterback for the Cardinals. Another big day.
How about them Giants?
Well, they had it tied for a while. Philadelphia and Jaworski having a big day there. And, boy, Chicago and Tampa Bay. That was close for a while. And Miami, 10 in a row over New England. Another big day for Dan Marino. And the Jets, Joe Walton has them playing. They're 6-2 now. And Detroit and Minnesota. Minnesota had that one in hand for a while. Billy Sims, by the way, hurt in that game. And in this game, it was absolute what you would expect from the Raiders and the Chargers. Both Mark Wilson and Dan Fouts on target throughout that game. It looked like San Diego had tied it up at the end, but they had a penalty on a touchdown scored. And Denver continues to roll. Danny Reeves, a former Cowboy, has the Broncos going. I guess they got out of the snow finally. And Seattle and Green Bay.
Green Bay's still in the snow. We've got Seattle next week, haven't we, against San Diego? That'll be a good ball game.
49ers rolling along. They are 7-1. They defeat Houston. Indianapolis, Frank Kush watched a deflected pass fall into the hands of one of his receivers. That was the difference in that game. And everyone kicked field goals out in the Cleveland-Cincinnati game. And they continue to work on Billy Cannon, the great All-American, great baseball player out of Texas A&M. He was drafted by the Yankees and by the Dodgers, and number 1 by the Dallas Cowboys. Had started playing a lot of part-time duty at linebacker with Anthony Dickerson. We'll look at the standings. There, of course, is Miami, 8-0 and rolling along. We'll be seeing them a couple of times coming up. We'll have the Jets and Miami right after the Thanksgiving weekend. And in the AFC Central Division, well, who wants to win this one? And Pittsburgh against New Orleans coming up a little later on, just prior to Thanksgiving. And the Raiders and the Broncos are heading for a showdown. They meet next week. That's going to be some game. Mark Wilson was brilliant today. 5 touchdown passes. And in this division, well, a win tonight, as I mentioned earlier, and the Cowboys will make a 3-way tie out of it. Giants 4-4, Philadelphia 4-4. All these the standings at the midway point of the 1984 season.
I got the Bears.
And Chicago coming up against San Diego a little later on. And finally, the NFC West. There it is. San Francisco 7-1. And I mentioned that Atlanta and the Rams will get it on tomorrow night. We'll be leaving right after this game. And Billy Cannon being taken off again. We'll get a report as quickly and as accurately as possible before we speculate on the seriousness of the injury. Brian Hansen on to punt for 4th down for the New Orleans Saints. Gary Allen, fine return man for the Cowboys, is deep. Has not been able to break one off this year, but he was scintillating last year. There's Gary Allen. And spins and is taken by the first man down for the New Orleans Saints. And it was a hustling Rodney Lewis that got there. A 41-yard effort. And the Cowboys, who scored 3 on their first possession, have it again. Out of Central Michigan 5 years ago, Gary Hogeboom, 6'4", 200-pounder. They knew they had a beauty, even though they got him in the 5th round. But it's taken a long time for him to become the starter. And he is a controversial one still. Tony Dorsett on first down for a gain of about 3. It'll be 2nd down and 7 for Dallas. That is something.
Yeah.
They've been in the playoffs 17 out of 18 seasons, and New Orleans, the best they've ever managed in 17 years is 8-8. Bum Phillips got them to 8-8 last year. They almost went to the playoffs. They lost in the last second in the final game of the season to the Rams. I might also add they had 6 coaches at New Orleans in the first 14 years of existence. Springs, left side. Springs hit at the 25-yard line and buried at the 24. And there, of course, is Ed Jones, who is getting up there in age. Nevertheless, having a good season for the Cowboys, even though their big problem has been stopping the running game of their opponents. John Riggins with a tremendous game last week for Washington.
Well, the word around the league has not been their down linemen that has been their problem. It has been their linebackers' inability to get in there and make the tackle. So I'm going to talk to you about that later, Captain Don.
Good. I know a lot of that. I know a lot about that.
3rd down and 5 for shotgun for the Cowboys. Hogeboom hangs one up high. There was a little shoving and pushing there between Tony Hill. I think Johnny Poe had a case, but no flag went down.
You see Tony make that catch a lot. They're really counting on the fact that Tony Hill's back in there to give their offense a boost. As everybody knows, they haven't been scoring a lot of points.
Yeah, to Hogeboom's credit, he started this season without Drew Pearson, who retired after an automobile accident.
That's true.
Tony Hill missed 6 games, and Butch Johnson was traded to Houston. So he had altogether different receivers than the ones that Danny White worked with a year ago. You had a quick look at Jeff Throat and Danny White. He doesn't get a lot of distance, but he usually hangs it pretty high, and he gets good coverage. And
got a good bounce, didn't he?
as a matter of fact, he also gets good bounces, and it trickles down to just about the 31-yard line of New Orleans. 42-yard punt, zip on the return. Danny White with the finest net punting in the NFL. Monday night is not one of their better nights.
Yeah, that grab, they're into the rhythm. They really don't, you know, they lose it on Sunday.
Well, they had a chance near the end of last season against the Jets. We had them, but they blew it in the 4th quarter.
Their second possession, the New Orleans Saints. The quarterback, of course, remains Richard Todd. And this is George Rogers. Rogers, he's so strong. The last time he played against the Cowboys, he missed last season's game. But in 1982, he rambled for 166 yards against Dallas. And Earl Campbell back in 1979 ran for 195 yards against the Cowboys. They came in here licking their chops tonight.
Well, I bet they have. But once again, you don't see the linebackers. If you look at their safeties, they're making all the tackles. And this defense, the flex is designed for linebackers to make the tackles.
2nd down and 4. Rogers just bowling it. He'll have the first down.
It's hard to finesse on defense, you know.
Yeah, I guess so.
When he starts finessing on defense, that just doesn't. That's kind of doesn't go together.
The big criticism down here has been middle linebacker Bob Bruning. Bob Bruning in his 10th year, and there has been talk that he was retiring. There are people that are saying they would like to see the rookie from Houston, Gene Lockhart, in there. Lockhart is wearing a huge cast to protect a broken thumb.
There's some people down here who say he's already retired.
Yes.
Yes. There's some people. There are people like that everywhere, though.
At the 42-yard line, first down New Orleans, they trail 3-0, 3:50, and the clock is moving, remaining in the first quarter. Todd, and wide open is Hobie Brenner. And this has been happening to Todd a great deal. He has had a tremendous amount of drop passes, had 5 against the Bears in a losing effort a few weeks ago. Last week, he opened the game and was 5 of 6 in a drive that resulted in 3 points the first time the Saints had the ball, but it could have been a touchdown, and he had yet another drop pass. It was frustrating. And Richard Todd is the kind of young man that's really affected by it. 2nd and 10. Rogers.
Look at this. Man, they're pushing him around.
Good running by Rogers as he could not go where the play was designed, broke it back inside, and he is up close to another first down, perhaps a foot short.
Let's take a look at it from the end zone. As you can see, there's nothing there. There should be a linebacker somewhere around. He's nowhere around. Now, in the NFL, when a player has a suggestion for the coach, he never goes to the coach. He goes to his captain, and he wants to stay anonymous. So I'm going to you, Captain Don.
Let me have it.
Why don't somebody go to Tom Landry, and say, maybe it's time to scrap the flex. Maybe it's time to go to the 30. We can get Eugene Lockhart in the game. Brunick would be better because he can play the guy in front of him. And what makes the 30 defense go is that nose guard, and they have what is potentially the greatest nose guard in the game in Randy White. Now, couldn't you think to stop these teams from running on them?
His answer might be 18 winning seasons, 17 out of 18 in the playoffs.
Well, there comes a time when they got rid of the single wing.
Washington uses the 4-3.
Good. That was good, Juice.
3rd, and you saw how much.
And I will talk to him.
That's Campbell. Look out. One-on-one with Michael Downs. Earl Campbell, his first carry of the night. And he gets a New Orleans first down inside the 30-yard line of Dallas. An 18-yard pickup by this man who is well over 8,000 yards in his 7-year career.
For a big man, now this is something that they say George Rogers will not do well for you. He will not go into the line and bounce out. Even though he's more of a straight-ahead runner, Earl Campbell can do both. As you can see there was not much in the middle. He took it outside, and I think Earl's a little heavier. If he was a little lighter, I think he's around 230 pounds. If he were a little lighter, I think you would have seen him try to put a move on that defensive back.
Fun game tonight. Great running backs. New Orleans trailing by 3, first down and 10 inside the 30, and that's Gaijon over the right side as a flag falls, and it could be a holding call. It usually is when it falls in that position, and it could be against New Orleans.
Looked like Stan Brock was trying to make one last effort to get Ed Jones there.
Referee once again tonight, Pat Haggerty, and the discussion is with Bob Bruning, the defensive captain for the Cowboys.
All right. CFA college football coming up, Frank. And Notre Dame's going to be SMU, but look at that second one.
A couple of Southwest Conference powers. Bill Onsberger, of course, head coach now at LSU for so many years. Great coach under Don Shula defensively for Miami. And you will see it right here, 3:30 Eastern time on ABC.
And the Ponies and the Longhorns.
Single setback now is Hokie Gaijon, his first down and 20 following the holding penalty. Todd underthrows to Jeff Groth, and he makes a diving effort. He was open in front of Ron Fellows, incomplete. Groth is saying that he did not trap it, but the official was right there. Take a look again, working one-on-one against Ron Fellows. There's Fellows, number 27. He was open. Pitcher a little late delivering the ball.
Little bounce. First bounce. First bounce. Fellows didn't go for that little fake that he's going deep, though, did he? He just kind of stayed right there with him.
2nd down and 20. Tyrone Young. He's 6'6", 192-pounder from Florida. He's in there. Number 89. Top of your screen. Hokie Gaijon. Gaijon is hit by Everson Walls and dropped behind the line of scrimmage. Cowboys a tough time last week against Washington, as they did 2 weeks ago against St. Louis. They lost to Washington 34-14, and there was so much criticism about their tackling. That was a beautiful open field tackle by Everson Walls.
Well, it's too bad the Saints got that holding penalty, because when you got second and long, this long, you run a different type of running play. You run a sort of an exotic running play, which they were trying then, and they're better a power running football team.
They're down in 22. Wayne Wilson is in the lineup, number 30 for New Orleans.
Look out, Richard.
Safety blitz. Downs was there, and they had individual coverage and a good effort by Everson Walls to save what could have been a touchdown to the speedster, Lindsey Scott. They got their one-on-one with the blitz. Todd had time to get it. He just did not deliver it on target. He led this man. It would have been 6.
It looks like he almost could have caught. You see him slow down there just a little bit. Gives Everson a chance to come across, but it still hit him in the arms. That was a good effort, as you're right, by Walls.
That will bring up 4th down.
It's fun. You know, there's two different things. You see all the safeties and everybody blitzing the quarterback, but at the same time, the quarterback knows, hey, I for sure got man-to-man coverage back there, and that's really what you're looking at.
This is Brian Hansen, rookie from Sioux Falls, averaging a little over 43 yards into the night. And there's Gary Allen. Hansen looking for the corner.
He got it. Nope.
Oh, yeah, he got it. It's going to be inside the 1.
Oh,
it is.
What a kick.
That's the one you dream of. He puts it out inside the 1-yard line and got 41 yards out of it doing so. So Dallas, leading 3-0, will take over inside the
ring. Rushers Eric Dickerson and the Los Angeles Rams square off against the Atlanta Falcons, live at 9 Eastern on ABC.
The rookie from Sioux Falls, Brian Hansen, who has just put it out inside the 1, where Dallas will take over their 3rd possession. A quick report, Billy Cannon, who was injured in the early going, suffered a jammed neck, we've been told. He's been taken to the locker room. He is going to be x-rayed there. He will not return to tonight's game, and we will try to update that report for you. Dallas 3-0 with 1:20 remaining in the 1st quarter. Inside their own 1-yard line, 1st and 10. Springs tries to get a little breathing room. He gets out, and again, a reminder, highlights coming your way at halftime. Lamps will be in New York for that, and Peter Jennings will also have results of an exclusive ABC News poll on who won tonight's presidential debate just before the second half kickoff. So stick with us through this very important political night. Springs out about a yard, so it'll be 2nd down and 9.
So Dennis Winston, Dirt, ex-Pittsburgh Steeler linebacker, was hungry for that safety. Made a shot at it, missed.
Remember Minnesota 2 years ago? Tony Dorsett, 99 yards. He gets a yard on this one. Tony Dorsett really has started to break out of a little bit.
Yeah.
He had 81 last week against Washington. Against St. Louis, again, a losing effort, 91 yards. But the offensive line of the Cowboys has been much like the Saints' offensive line, riddled with injuries. They have flipped their left tackle, Posderic, over to the right side tonight. They put Richards, who would have started there, over to the left side. All that because Jim Cooper, last Monday night, the starting right tackle, was on the way to the men's room, watching a Monday night game from Denver. And he absolutely slipped and fell, fractured his ankle and his leg.
Fall down, go boom.
Danny White has been very classy about being set down at the opening of the season. Hasn't said too much about it. Doesn't really like it, though. There he is. He has been in 2 games. Last week, he came in and led the Cowboys to a touchdown against Washington. He also did the same thing against the Cardinals 2 weeks before.
He says, I'm tired of being classy. I want to play.
3rd down and 8 from the shotgun. Hogaboom avoids 2 points, and Tony Hill's wide open. Oh, could he let him inside? It could have been 6.
He knows it, too. Made a good move to get away from the rush, buy a little bit more time. Hill had him beat. That's called throwing through the receiver a little bit too much instead of out in front of him.
And on comes Danny White in a precarious situation. They will not be able to go totally with their coverage on the punt because they're going to have to be protecting against a possible safety or a possible block punt that could result in a touchdown. There is Jeff Groth. He is inside Dallas territory. Danny White, again, not a long kicker, but he hangs it up there for a long time and is very consistent. NFL in net average. He cannot get that foot out of the end zone, or it would have been safety. He was very careful about it. Groth wisely. Fair catch called for and made at the 39-yard line. Danny holding right about his net average, but New Orleans trailing 3-0. Opening moments of the second quarter will have great field position. The Cowboys 39. An opportunity, 1st and 10, the 39-yard line of the Dallas Cowboys. Lindsey Scott, top of your screen. He's the speedster wide receiver that's been troubled by a very sore knee. George Rogers. Rogers piled up as he tries to take it to Ed Jones and Mike Hagman. They hold him to a couple. It'll be 2nd down and 8. Here are your first quarter stats. And for New Orleans and Richard Todd, 0 passing yards. He had a couple of men open. He had Scott open for what could have been 6 points.
26 yards is not what you're really looking for in your passing game, too. That's not what you call booming them out there, Boomer.
2nd down and 8. New Orleans at the 36-yard line of Dallas. Todd, wide open is Tyrone Young. And
touchdown.
A lanky wide receiver from Florida takes it in from 36 yards out, and the Saints take the lead. And Richard Todd had pressure and very coolly and calmly fired the shot. Flags are down in the end zone. We may have had a little extracurricular demonstration in there by Tyrone Young. Boy, he was open.
He was just wide open.
Ran a little cross pattern, as Frank said earlier. There's been some criticism around here about the Cowboys' ability to tackle in the secondary, and that's a good example of that.
Number 79, celebration in the end zone. 5-yard penalty on the kickoff.
I don't think it was 79, was it?
There will be no celebrations in the end zone.
No, we can't have those. I mean,
and there is no 79, so is some other folk. The goalpost is having a little bit of a problem here tonight. I think it was one of the Saints, and I didn't get the number. There are no 79s.
It was 89. It was Tyrone.
I think it was Tyrone also. He went up and grabbed the goalpost, and we've got a funny situation here. We may have a bit of a problem.
He dunked it.
Hasn't this happened before during this?
The one that happened was I believe it was down in Atlanta or someplace. Somebody hit the goalpost with a kick and knocked it over.
It was the Giants against the Rams a couple of weeks ago. That's where it happened. So I don't know what they're going to do now.
Well,
Pat Haggerty is trying to sort it out. I'm sure they are calling the goalpost repairman.
Yeah, they've got,
they got a rope there, and they're going to try to pull it back over.
He's on a plumbing house call.
Right.
There they go. There. They were doing it by a rope.
All right.
See, I told you they're prepared here in Dallas.
Hey, they are.
Any eventuality.
And Bum is prepared. Look at Bum. Is that terrific?
I know the guy on the right. That's Bill Edwards.
Who's the guy with the hat?
What a great guy. He really is. He does keep it in perspective. He admitted last week, said, I think I made a mistake. He was talking, of course, of his shuttling quarterbacks in the first half. There's some people that are questioning his giving away a first-round draft pick to get Earl Campbell.
I like his answer about that. They accused him of being in love with Earl Campbell, and he said he loves his wife, but he wouldn't give up a #1 draft choice for her.
That's great. He also said he got Earl Campbell, Kenny Stabler, and Casper. He says, not because he needed them, because I knew that they were good football players. And that's his answer, is why you get an Earl Campbell when you've got a George Rogers in the backfield. Old Bum's got answers for most everything.
I think we have things straightened out now. Morton Anderson comes on. That's Guido Merkins, who does a little bit of everything. They say most holders are wide receivers or quarterbacks. Well, Merkins is all of that, plus a defensive back. Peterzak will snap it back. And Anderson extends the New Orleans leads. 7-3. They're on top with 13:59 to go here in the second quarter. We'll be back in a moment.
NFL Classics.
Last game, Dallas, Washington. Clock ticking. Winner to the playoffs. And the Redskins bang out a 13-point lead. But this was Roger Staubach's last regular season game. And his passion for dramatic victory simply took over and dictated the results. 2 desperation touchdowns and 1 more miracle from the captain of the Cowboys.
time.
They wouldn't send me back out there, would they? Not Jeff and Hazel. Oh, it's wonderful, the quarterback debates. They happen all over the country.
Gary Allen, 31. Chuck McSwain, 35. Deep for Dallas. Anderson to put it in play. High booming kick. Making it the 2-yard line as Gary Allen brings it out. And Allen over the 25-yard line, hit there by Scott Pelluer, a pair of brothers in the game tonight. Scott Pelluer, a special teams player for the New Orleans Saints, and of course his brother Steve Pelluer is a rookie quarterback from Washington.
It's kind of a cute story, Frank, how they got
it
here.
Is.
Why don't you see if you can put that together? It'd take me too long. Well, okay, we'll get it later. Scott and Steve Pelluer.
First down and 10, and Gary Hogeboom at quarterback for Dallas. Setback Springs and Dorsett. Hogeboom took a big tight end, Doug Cosby, and he is down before he coughs up the ball for a Cowboy first down at the 42-yard line, a gain of 15.
That particular type of pass is the reason that Landry gives for playing Hogeboom and not White. There's very few quarterbacks that have enough confidence in the arm. You see the linebacker right in front? Now, that guy's looking right at the quarterback's eyes, but he knows he's got Cosby right over him. So if you've got confidence in your arm to be able to drop that thing in the middle, that's what you try to do. But what Gary has not been doing, he hasn't been dropping it there that many times. He's got too strong an arm.
Very confident. He also has a 6'6" Doug Cosby. Dorsett taken out of bounds after a gain of 2. Hit there first by Kovac, and then it was Frank Watlett.
You have to like Tony. He has really matured this year quite a bit. They've made him the offensive captain of the team, and with all the controversy going around about who should be the quarterback, he's been pretty stable about it. He's played it right down the middle, and it's a tough year for Tony. Tony's a breakaway type back. He's averaging less than 4 yards a carry, and that's almost unbelievable. He hasn't had a 100-yard game in the last 10 games.
I got a little one I like, too. You got a second down here. Frank's going to get that one going.
And 8 for the Cowboys.
He got, wide open. Whoa.
A screen, a good time to have it called with a blitz. And Springs coming close to a first down, perhaps a couple of feet short. He was hit there by Dennis Winston.
They read that screen pretty well, and in doing so, they really left Doug Cosby wide open coming across the middle. I didn't see the screen set up. The defensive players did, but he had him really wide open. You see, what they try to do is make it look like that good deep pass downfield and drop back a little bit further. They're setting up to the outside. Ron gets it, goes to the outside, does come up a little bit short of his first down, however. Third down, and I'd say less than a yard.
And the tight ends come in. Cornwell, a rookie from USC, and there with Doug Cosby in the short yardage offense. And they hand it off inside to Springs, and second effort will bring him close to a first down. He was hit short of the first down and then bounced to an opening to his left, and he is very close.
You talk about Tony Dorsey a while ago, kind of keeping to himself. They say, okay, who are you going to play quarterback? He says, if you'll notice behind my name, Tony Dorsett, it says RB. That's running back. Behind Landry's name, it says Coach. He said, ain't my job. And I like that. That's the way.
No diplomacy.
Yeah, one of the things I think has happened to the players down here this year, they got a little bit too involved in this quarterback controversy, and I know you feel this way, OJ. I think Frank does too. Quarterback is just, it's an important position, but my gosh, it's not going to turn the team around one way or another. They got to have a lot of players out there.
Well, the Rams have proven that with Jeff Kemp, even though he's performing well for them, as the Cowboys appear to get the first down.
Springs with a great effort. Bounces off and gets the first down, keeps the drive alive.
This is very un-Dallas, what you're seeing right here, the Dallas wave. All right, go get them, Dallas.
Not bad for a town that's not near an ocean.
All right.
Very sophisticated down here.
Sophisticated.
They have a very kind of a low roller, if you will, Wade type. On 1st and 10, Hogeboom in trouble, and he just unloads that.
That was probably a good move there. He saw.
Oh, he had pressure. Kovac, the linebacker, was right in his face.
Yeah. Get rid of that ball.
Again, a reminder, we'll be moving over to Atlanta right after tonight's game for the Rams in Atlanta, as Both those teams try to stay close to San Francisco, and that's what New Orleans is doing tonight. And then a week from tomorrow night, Seattle at San Diego, and one has to hope that everything is all right with those receivers, Kellen Winslow and Wes Chandler, for San Diego. Both of them left today's game against the Raiders, a thrilling game it was, with knee injuries. 2nd and 10. Dorsett.
All right, Tony D.
Quick moves. Designed to go to the left. He almost went to the carpet, was able to maintain his balance, and he picks up 7 yards.
Well, Tony made up his mind where he was going on that run, and he slipped when he first tried to cut back to his right, and if he wouldn't have slipped, he may have been off to the races. As it is, he gained about 7 yards.
But that play was not designed to go to the right, was it? I mean,
I don't know. Sometimes it's a play that maybe was designed to go up the middle. We ran a few of those in Buffalo where you start off one way and you look to go the other way, but he's run it enough to know pretty much what he wanted to do once he saw the defensive alignment.
3rd down and 3. Dorsett 24 yards, 7 attempts. They defensed him rather well. Hogeboom 4 of 8. Hogeboom almost had one picked off for what could have been 6 as Kovac stepped right in front of it. I don't think Hogeboom even saw him.
Well, he kind of zeroed in on that side. He only looked in one direction. Got a little bit of pressure up the middle, it looked like, too.
Well, Russell Gary had the easier catch, and he dropped it also.
That ball was not destined. It was destined to be dropped.
4th down. Danny White will come into the lineup. And he is kicking from just about the same place Brian Hansen kicked for New Orleans and put it out inside the 1. There's Jeff Groth back and guessing with Danny White. Danny White kicks the ball very high. He might just kick it straight away and look for coverage, and that's exactly what he's done. Groth forced to make the fair catch at the 11-yard line. There is Jeff Groth. It'll be 1st down and 10 for New Orleans at the 11-yard line. We're going to go now to Washington and join ABC News' Peter Jennings, who will really act for him just about like Tim Wilson did when Tim Wilson was with him in Houston and was just the key blocking back. They'll run out of the I formation, and Earl from deep back there, O.J., where you have run for so many times. Campbell, he got a block from Gajan, and he was tripped up by Dexter Clinkscale after a gain of about 3.
You got to feel that Earl really, you know, when one team trades you and you go to another team, it's got to do a little bit something to you. So you got to think that Earl really wants to make this to be a good trade for Bum. He played for Bum down in Houston. And
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you, like me, there are coaches that I had enjoyed, like, of course, John McKay and Lou Saban. And Bum has been good for all runners, and I'm sure he's just happy to be running in Bum's offensive scheme.
On 2nd down and 7. Power running by Campbell and power tackling. Bob Bruning and Michael Downs were there, and they held Campbell to just about a yard. It'll bring up a 3rd down and 5.
Actually, it was Downs who stopped the play, and you're not going to have the best defense against the run when you're counting on your safeties to come up and make the tackles inside the tackle. Is essentially what he did there. And once again, we go back to my early argument.
You'll end up with a lot of short safeties.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think they have the personnel to play the flex defense anymore, in their linebackers particularly.
That's Rogers. And Rogers close to a 1st down.
One of the things I think that could substantiate what you're saying.
Let me correct that is Wayne Wilson.
Did he make it? He did make the 1st down. To substantiate what you're saying, I think the flex defense, Tom's had so much success with it in the past, but the one thing in particular, there's been some rule changes, I think, that have hurt the flex defense. They've always been a coordinated kind of defense, and the rule changes that tried to emphasize passing a little bit does not, you know, that doesn't really help. So that might be something to consider.
Well, I think their personnel definitely lends itself to the 30 defense right now.
At the 22-yard line, 1st and 10. Gajan, who came into the league 3 years ago at about 2.5, and he's up now around 2.30, just on a weight program, gets a couple of yards.
And, of course, the 30 defense is the defense where you have 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers. It limits the area responsibility of your linebackers, so they don't have to worry about covering so much ground. And I'll go back to the fact that I think Randy White would turn out to be maybe the best nose tackle in football.
He's already about the best defensive tackle, isn't he?
2nd down and 7. Todd, man was wide open, but he wasn't looking. It is Michael Downs who stepped right in front of an intended receiver. It was Jeff Gross trying to get deep. Did not even look back at Todd. He threw the ball, and Michael Downs was right there, and he was certainly open. Michael Downs.
I noticed the receiver, John, was coming underneath Groth. You think Groth felt he had a clear out pattern, and he didn't expect the ball to be thrown to him? Like you'll see a receiver coming in from the right there.
Yeah, that
Number
could
89 was Tyrone Young. Do you think Groth felt that he was supposed to clear out for Young to come underneath because he never looked for the football?
Certainly possible. We got a Cowboy down.
Cowboy down.
I tell you what, it makes the quarterback really look.
Michael Downs, and he is slow getting up.
Sure makes the quarterback look a little silly when he throw it because the guy wasn't even there. It had to be some kind of a mix-up, and that could be it, because a lot of times you send the guy down to clean out that zone. The other guy's coming back in. That could very well be what it was.
Michael Downs gets the Cowboys' first turnover. They'll have a first down and 10 inside the 30 of New Orleans. Michael Downs gets his third interception of the season. He's also the leading tackler for the Dallas Cowboys coming into tonight. First down and 10. 8:08 remaining here in the first half. Dorsett, right side, tries to get outside. Tripped up. And he'll lose a yard. Dennis Winston defensively.
You better have your helmet on when you run to Ricky Jackson's number 57 side of the field, because he diagnosed that play almost immediately. He closed it down, and he forced Dorsett to run closer to the line of scrimmage than he wanted to.
And Winston, as Frank mentioned, was the guy who came up through the middle and double forced it as Winston limped off. Looked like he turned his ankle.
He has been replaced by Glenn Reed, number 58 defensively. There was a loss of 2, so it's second down and 12. Hogaboom with the powerful arm gets it out to the wide receiver Mike Renfro, and Renfro will have a first down. That's his 20th reception for the Cowboys this year, and of course he came to Dallas from Houston in exchange for Butch Johnson, who has now traveled on to Denver and is having a good season there.
Did you see Ron Springs? He was running a cross pattern, and he jumped up for the ball and was overthrown. He was shaking his head like, oh, he overthrew me. And he looked up, and the other guy caught the ball.
Hey, that's one of the advantages of having the patterns where all the guys are like ducks in a row, man. And you just throw it out there, and somebody's going to catch it.
7-3, the Saints over the Cowboys. The Cowboys on the move inside the 20 of New Orleans. First down and 10, 6:45 remaining in the half. Dorsett darting back inside and gets close to the 15-yard line, a gain of 4. It'll be second down and 6. Winston now back in the game defensively for New Orleans. Appears to be all right. Michael Downs, we are told, has a slightly bruised back. He's expected to be back in the defensive lineup for Dallas.
This has been in the past a tough Saints defensive team. Their biggest problem has been their nose tackle, Derlin Moore, has been playing hurt. He's one of the best when he's playing healthy, but he's playing hurt, so they've been having problems stopping the run.
Hogaboom again. Looks for Renfro, checks it out to Ron Springs. And Springs is met there.
Nice defense.
Quickly, defensively by Kovac. Jim Kovac.
Plus, I've noticed they've blitzed on just about every play, the Saints. You just don't get to the playoffs. And if you do make it to the playoffs, you don't go too far in the playoffs when you rely on the blitz.
Springs got 1. It'll be third down and 5. Hogaboom looks over, picks up the snap. And just recently activated, James Jones is in the lineup, number 23. He's been basically out for 2 years with a knee injury for Dallas. And that is Jones. Jones circling out of the backfield, and that's really his first action in a couple of years. He's had a very troublesome knee problem, and he is going to be short of the first down. But it's going to create decision time for Tom Landry, and he makes it very quickly to the crescendo of boos from this partisan crowd. He sends out Raphael Septien.
You know, Frank, you hear the boos, but you also wonder, Dallas has been criticized in the past for not playing with a great deal of enthusiasm. And I don't know, it's hard to criticize because they've won so many times in the past, as we see Tom over on the sideline. But a lot of teams you talk about, they love to play Dallas because they're not going to be very emotional. They're going to go out there and just play their game.
27-yard attempt. Hogaboom gets it down.
Right down the
Septien.
middle.
That is duck shooting range for Septien, one of the most accurate kickers in the history of this game. So the Cowboys trail by 1. a decision to forego a 4th and 1. With Don Meredith and O.J. Simpson, Texas Stadium sold out on this big night in political history here in the United States. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I guess that is the nature of this country and also its flexibility. We'll be going to Washington, joining Peter Jennings at halftime for an ABC News poll on the outcome of that debate. And we'll also be joining Jim Lampley in New York for highlights of today's play. And there were some interesting games today.
I thought you were going to say highlights of the debate. Will we have those too? Same
Perhaps.
Time? Highlights.
Septien kicks away. 4:34 remaining in the half. Saints on top, 7-6. Here comes Tyrone Anthony. Flag is down as Anthony is down inside the 20-yard line.
The old familiar flag on the kickoff. Holding. Thank you.
And the Saints will be backed up. Saints lost their opener to Atlanta this season. Then they won 3 out of 4, losing only to San Francisco. And they've lost their last 2 to Chicago and last week to Los Angeles, 28-10.
Holding, number 82 on the return, first down.
So New Orleans, instead of their 20-yard line, will begin their possession inside their own 10-yard line when we come back to Texas Stadium. The Saints over the Cowboys, 7-6, 4:26 remaining in the first half. The Saints first down and 10, the ball just inside their own 10-yard line. Campbell is in there as the big setback, but Richard Todd is back. Todd slides for the first down out over the 20-yard line.
And good move by Richard that time. Spread them all out to the outside, opened up in the middle, and he takes off.
13-yard pickup for Richard Todd. 7 years. He started for the Jets, replacing a bit of a legend there, Joe Namath. Not a bit, a legend for the Jet fans. Came down to New Orleans Saints ostensibly to replace another one in Ken Stabler. The jury is still out. On 1st and 10. Earl Campbell bounces off the stack. Straight arms Everson Walls, and that's Earl Campbell vintage type. First down.
Well, once again, that's what they say he can do that George Rogers doesn't do too well.
And this looks like he didn't have any place to go. Look.
Yeah. But how many backs can bop in there and get outside? How many backs think about it? They say what George Rogers tries to do in that situation is get on the backs, get on the lineman's back, and just try to push in there, where Earl will bounce out of there and get some big yards. I recall one Monday night game against Miami where he went 80 or 90 yards doing that very same thing.
He made Everson Walls look like a schoolboy with that stiff arm. On first down, Guyjon left side. Guyjon's in the open. Doesn't have great speed, but he may not need much.
Got great enough.
Everson Walls doesn't have speed either, and Guyjon goes the distance, 62 yards. This young man has really made a football player out of himself. Came up a 10th round draft pick. No, not fast. Turned into a strong blocker. Found a spot on this team, and he has just ripped off a big one.
And who is over here jumping up and down said, I told you, I told you, I told you. And they can't run on the Cowboys, right?
Well, I told you in the opening of the show, when you have big names like you got 3 Heisman Trophy winners, and I felt that this guy would end up being one of the big stars of the game. We've seen him do this. He did it against Jets last year on a Monday night game, and he's one of these guys that work and work and work, and before you know it, he does something big like that. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry coming into this game. It's amazing.
Kelvin Clark should get an assist. He did a tremendous job on Randy White. Rolled him up one-on-one. Anderson for the conversion. And the Saints have quieted the partisan crowd here at Texas Stadium. Out of LSU. The Tigers should be proud of this one. 52-yard touchdown run by Hokie Guyjon has really stunned the Cowboys. Beautifully executed at the line of scrimmage. Great block by Kelvin Clark. No sign of middle linebacker Bob Brunig, and it was a straight sprint. And he does not have the kind of speed that should take him 62 yards for a touchdown.
Well, he was a little faster than the linebackers of Dallas.
Gary Allen. And Allen out to the 24-yard line. Let's take a look at the replay. Great blocking. That left guard just beyond the center. He's on Randy White. He rolls him up. Out to the outside goes Guyjon.
And there just was a big hole in there. And once again, in the flex defense you're talking about, it's designed for the linebacker, particularly the middle linebacker, to make most of the tackles. They're trying to keep the guards and center off of him where it frees him up to hit those holes. That time, Bruni hit the wrong hole.
Actually, he went by the hole and he got caught up in there. That's when I think they should go to 30, where we have less room that he has to cover in the middle.
I'm going to talk to him about it.
All right, Captain.
At the 24-yard line, 1st and 10. Wide open is Tony Hill. And he'll have a Dallas first down.
Makes it look easy, doesn't it, when Tony's out there? They really have missed him. You know, what's wrong with the Cowboys is something that I've been hearing for so many years. It's unbelievable. I think maybe what's wrong with them this year is that truly they just don't have the horses. They've been in that quote building and rebuilding program, but they've had a lot of guys hurt, particularly in that offensive line. But I don't know that they have that many good players. I don't think they're as good as they have been in the last few years.
On first down, Tony Dorsett. Gets away from Jackson with a good move, and Dorsett explodes out over middle at the 50-yard line. 14-yard pickup, but he made a tremendous move on Ricky Jackson to get outside. And Ricky Jackson is a good open field tackler.
There was a graphic we had earlier in the ball game that's saying, you know, Tony has not had a 100-yard rushing game in his last 10 regular seasons. Now that, you know, for a guy like this who usually kind of clicks them off, that says something about that offensive unit.
Well, if they don't get too far behind, I think you'll see Tony break that 100-yard mark tonight.
And in Texas Stadium, he has had 100-yard games 25 times, and the Cowboys have never lost here when he's had a 100-yard game. Dorsett gets 3 to the 45-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and 7. Bruce Clark defensively there. We come down to the 2-minute warning. A reminder, we'll be going to Peter Jennings, ABC News in Washington, for an ABC News poll on the debate tonight. And, of course, we will have the highlights from Jim Lampley in New York.
Now, how long did it take you to make that little sign?
Well, I worked on it today at lunch. I was finding somebody to hang
2nd
it
and
up.
7. And Hogaboom fired one in. Dennis Winston defensively against Tony Hill, short of the first down. And now we have the 2-minute warning. Both teams have 3 timeouts remaining. We'll be right back. 57 remaining in the first half. New Orleans leads the Cowboys 14-6. Dallas on yet another drive. They have a 3rd down and 3 they're confronted with. Hogaboom on the night, 9 of 14, 93 yards. Dorsett has picked up 43 yards on 11 carries. Renfro split up to the top of your screen as one wide receiver. Tony Hill to the left, and from the shotgun is Hogaboom. Tries to slide it into Jones, and it's incomplete.
Pretty good coverage right there that time. Whitney Paul was the linebacker, and he was not far off. The ball was thrown a little bit behind Jones, looked like. They're going to punt.
Danny White comes out as we look once again.
You see him come back to the outside. That's a pretty big old boy standing there pretty close. The ball is just a touch behind. Very catchable, I would say, but still a little bit more difficult than maybe what it had to be.
Jim Cooper went on the injured reserve today. I mentioned that he had suffered an injured ankle and a broken fibula in his leg in a slip and fall on Monday night. James Jones, the intended receiver a moment ago, was activated. Here's Danny White. Waiting. Make sure that his coverage gets down under it. Oh, and he's got a piece of work here. Danny White has got one inside the 1-yard line.
Flag is down.
And a flag is down. And it usually works against the kicking team.
They probably had the lineman released too early because he held the ball so long. Be a 5-yard penalty.
Sure, that's exactly what happened. That's the preliminary indication from Pat Haggerty.
Danny, I think, really thought about trying to run that time. You know, he hasn't done it this year, and as most people realize, has had a great deal of success in the past in doing that.
He has. He's been 14 of 18 over his career on 4th down attempts.
I knew you'd know the answer to that.
An eligible man downfield, number 55, offense, still 4th down.
Down remains the same. 1:43 now remaining in the half.
That took away a terrific punt, wasn't it? That thing was out on about the 1 or 2.
Right at the 1-yard line, they had marked it. Jeff Groth now has stepped up to about the 13-yard line of New Orleans. Danny White again looking to get coverage as he kicks it straight up in the air. Grove calls for the fair catch at the 17-yard line. And New Orleans, with an 8-point lead, will have 1:36 remaining here in the half. They have 3 timeouts. 1st and 10, the ball inside their own 17-yard line. That's the time remaining in the first half. The Saints on top of the Cowboys, 14-6. The Saints 3-4. Dallas 4-3. Campbell, and he bangs his way up close to the 20-yard line. Septien got the scoring underway here in Dallas tonight. He hit from 37 yards out. Richard Todd came back, hit Tyrone Young 36 yards for a touchdown to make it New Orleans 7-3. Raphael Septien got his own field goal to make it 7-6, and then Hokie Gajan stunned this crowd, 62-yard touchdown for the Saints to make it 14-6. That's where we are. Cowboys have called timeout. They'd like to get the ball back down here. We're going to pause 5 seconds and allow our stations to identify themselves.
WTAE-TV, Channel 4, Pittsburgh.
I've never been down there. I'm just curious how Bum talks to a quarterback. I bet he's sort of cool and casual about it.
I would think so, too. They don't have that many options. Of course, they've worked for a long time since training camp. They've got their 2-minute offense. They may put in something a little bit different when they play different from one team from another, but basically it's the same. I would think right now, after the Cowboys have called their timeout, he's just saying, we've got to pick up a first down. They're not trying to move it down the field that far.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised the Cowboys has done that. They obviously, Tom Landry is optimistic with his defense. I would have thought he would have loved to go in at halftime, 14-6.
It's 2nd down and 7.
Not more.
Campbell gets a good block from Gajan, but is nailed at the line of scrimmage. And scrambled there at the bottom of the pile as though Campbell might have lost the football after he went down. It'll bring up 3rd down and about 5 as we look at Danny White, who has to be troubled. He took over from the legend Roger Staubach in '79. 3 out of the 4 years he quarterbacked his Cowboy team. They wound up in NFC championship games. And he has to kind of wonder,
he did a good
what did
job.
I do wrong?
Well, I don't think he did anything particularly wrong. I think that what he was trying to say is this guy right here, Hogaboom, is the guy that's maybe got a little bit more your raw talent. I think in Hogaboom's defense for this year, Danny White has played with a better team over the last 4 years. They've had a better team than they have right now.
Certainly better receivers. I mentioned earlier that gone from this Dallas team are Drew Pearson, who retired. Tony Hill missed 5 games after going out in the opener against the Rams with the shoulder. Butch Johnson, who was a great compliment to Hill and to Pearson. He was traded.
Cosby also has been hurt a little bit this year. That's the tight end that comes in there also. And their offensive line, you may have mentioned this at the top of the show, Frank, I don't know, but they've got so many guys that have been hurt this year that hardly anybody's playing in the same position that they started the season.
They really only have had one healthy offensive lineman throughout the season. They were hoping they'd get Herb Scott back tonight. We haven't seen him. Cowboys use another timeout. They want the football back. They have 1 remaining.
They're not going to get it. Look at that old boy.
Wayne Wilson. And it does appear as if Wilson will have the first down. That should pretty much put an end to any of the Cowboy thoughts about getting another possession here in the first half.
They go into that prevent defense looking for a pass, and that's just a pitch out swing to the outside.
It's a good move by Bum. You know, he doesn't have George Rogers in the game, and he takes Earl Campbell out of the game. He puts in Wilson with a 1 back. You
I really don't
assume they're going to pass.
I don't understand this. New Orleans Saints are up close to their 30-yard line. They have 3 timeouts remaining.
Why didn't they call timeout?
Well, why didn't they get the playoff? Campbell. And he gets to the outside. Look out, fellows. He misses cold.
Now they ought to call
they'll think timeout. Yes, they finally do. They could have saved themselves about 40 seconds.
It also gives you an indication of how confident they are in their own passing game. Not much.
That's puzzling.
Well, Earl's got the feeling. You can see that. He comes up here. The offensive line does a super job of giving him time. You know, when you don't get penetration, you can kind of bounce around like that and get outside. And as I said, Earl is carrying a little too much weight now. If he had about 10 pounds off, I think he'd have walked away from that guy.
Heavy or not, he put a move on Ron Fellows that any scat back would be proud of. Fellows didn't even touch him.
Well, Fellows was dug in. You know, when you see Earl Campbell, Earl is only about 5'10". You see a guy his size coming at you, you kind of dig in. You know what I mean? You try to get down in the trenches, and sometimes...
when you do, you should take up another profession.
Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't dig in, but that's another. That's a whole other story.
Hey, let me tell you, there's been a lot of defensive players that dug in on Earl Campbell. Did you see what he did to Jack Tatum on the goal line, or what he did to Isaiah Robinson? He came into the league blasting guys.
37 seconds remaining. The Saints have a 1st and 10 near their own 42. They have 2 timeouts remaining. Wayne Wilson, the setback for the Saints. Richard Todd checking off. And there is movement on the Saints' right side. Steve Horton, who is being forced to play the guard position after winning the starting center position earlier in the year. That by injuries.
False start. Number 60, offense.
And his court that you saw moving. They'll back them up 5. Down will remain the same. It'll be 1st and 15 with 37 seconds remaining in the first half. John Tice, number 82, tight end for the Saints, comes into the lineup. So Lindsey Scott, number 80, Jeff Grove, number 86. Those are the wide receivers with a pair of tight ends. That's Scott. Scott is open and gets away from Walls. Steps out of bounds, kills the clock at the 44-yard line. 30 seconds remaining in the first half. Lindsey Scott, he's got that blazing speed. We saw him make a great effort down in New Orleans in a preseason game, O.J. They would really like to have this #1 draft pick back in action, but he's been troubled with a knee problem.
Yeah, but he can get it going, and Earl can get back in form, and they have a guy named Junior Miller who has the potential to be a great tight end. Those guys perform. This could be a great team.
Remember George Rogers? 2nd and 7. Todd with a fine shot to Groth, and Groth will have another first down inside Dallas territory near the 43-yard line. 23 seconds remaining in the half, and the Saints now must be looking back on the 20 or so seconds they just let run off the clock. They have 1 timeout remaining.
Not much fancy, but the thing he didn't do is he didn't go to the outside. You'll see they're trying to protect that outside there a little bit. Ron Fellows was the guy defending. He says if you're going to catch it, you're going to have to catch it inside and use a timeout.
All right. Talking about a couple of more great runners.
You love it, don't you?
Gerald Riggs.
You love
I'm a big fan of runners, and you'll see maybe the best in the game today in Eric Dickerson there with the Rams. And
SMU graduate, right?
Oh, did he graduate?
A week from tomorrow, you're going to see one of the gutsy players I've ever seen. Dan Fouts hung in there today. Battered, beaten, lost receivers, hung in there, came ever so close to the Raiders. And, of course, they're going to go against the Seattle Seahawks. That'll be a week from Monday night. Seattle staying alive and healthy in perhaps the strongest division in the NFL, the AFC West.
They lost one. They lost a good running back, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Chuck Knox has done a super job up there to keep them in contention, playing super defense.
You know, he just wins wherever he goes, doesn't he?
Some coaches are like that.
44-yard line for New Orleans. 23 seconds remaining in the half. They have a 14-6 lead over the Cowboys. They have 1 timeout remaining. Todd to the tight end, Tice, and batted away. Everson Walls was in front, and Downs was behind the receiver.
Anyway, we got that Downs. That is down. Everson Walls made a heck of a move because this is almost face guarding because he knew that he was going back out to his outside. You'll see.
It's Clinkscale, actually, Don, who is down.
But look at Everson Walls, though. He knew that ball was getting close.
Clinkscale fell on the tight end, John Tice, and he is slow getting up for Dallas.
Every year, every team can go back and say, hey, we were either decimated by injuries or they're going to have it. And it's one of the unfortunate things about the game. And I don't think this is a team in the league that really goes without them. But, you know, at the end of the season, it's almost the team that stays the healthiest is the one that's going to be very close right there at the end. These guys have had an awful lot of guys hurt this year.
No winners, only survivors.
Yeah, well, San Diego, you're talking about them. They have had so many of the guys hurt off and on all season.
And they may have a couple of big ones today.
That would really hurt them.
Maybe.
Young man came up 4 years ago as a free agent, just kind of fought his way onto this football team. See it again. You'll see Everson Walls now. He's allowed to do this. He's not face guarding as long as he doesn't wave those hands around. And there is Clinkscale coming right over John Tice. And he could have just fallen on Tice and perhaps had the wind knocked out of him. He is now walking off the field and with a slight limp, and I'm Fairly certain we'll see him back in the lineup.
That might have been Everson Walls that you see that came by there and actually is going to hit playing scale too.
17 seconds remain. Saints have one timeout.
Well, the Saints last year on a Monday night, as you know, they have never won a Monday night football game. They appear to have had a game in hand against the Jets last year, but the Jets came back in the second half, and as I said, they've never won a game on Monday night.
It's the first time for everything.
At the 44-yard line of Dallas. Second down and 10. Dallas showing safety blitz, and they come with it. Todd reads it and fires to Tyrone Young, and he holds on.
Nice job of catching that ball that time, Tyrone.
And will they use their final timeout?
I think they did.
They have. The first down is near the 32-yard line of Dallas, and Richard Todd uses the final timeout.
They like to try to time that safety blitz. You saw Michael Downs. He got out there a little bit early, and Todd saw it. Obviously saw that there was going to be man-to-man coverage, and Tyrone just came in from the inside. He also could see that blitz coming.
Well, he was heads up. He took a quick look to see where number 24 Everson Walls would be, and then he was right back looking at Todd.
But the ball was thrown behind him again. That's the kind of deal, man. That just stops the whole pattern, the whole flow. 24-year-old kid, 6'6".
Yeah, well, it's time for the alley-oop, I would say. I'd send him into the end zone and get the ball up high. We know he can jump.
Well,
He knocked the goalpost down almost earlier.
What do they call him? Sky tie or something down there?
Yeah. Little R.C. Owens time.
Winkscale is back in the lineup. Slightly bruised thigh. And now Todd, with no timeouts remaining, has 12 seconds. His speed man is Lindsey Scott, and he's not in there. Tyrone Young is split to the right. He's the tall one, 6'6", 192. Top of your screen is Jeff Grote. And that one was being awaited by Michael Downs, and Ron Fellows interfered with his own teammate. Otherwise, we'd have had a Dallas turnover. That ball should not have been thrown.
So easy to see from up here, but it looked like they had a guy, Tyrone Young.
Oh, 6'6" Tyrone had one-on-one coverage, and it looked as if he may have had a step on Everson Walls, even though Everson was playing a deep zone. But at 6'6", just put it up.
Out comes Morton Anderson. He's made 8 of 10 this year. He's 3 in a row, 7 of the last 8. His best for this year thus far, 47 yards. And this would be a season high for Morton Anderson. The attempt from 49 yards.
It's long enough.
And a lot of accuracy.
Hey, hey.
The Saints get something out of it. And they move out to a 17-6 lead with 2 seconds on the clock. We'll see the kickoff.
All right, let's take a look at number 89, Tyrone. He's 6'6". You know they have 1 play left. They have no timeouts, which means they should throw the ball into the end zone, or hopefully over the end zone.
About this time, I think Richard Todd was very busy.
I think also that probably Everson had seen him throw the ball, but I wondered how the heck he got so open. I didn't see it then. I looked back and said, wait a minute. The guy can't be that open, but evidently Everson had seen Richard throw the ball.
So with 2 seconds remaining in the half, we will see the kickoff. Reminder again, we'll be going to Peter Jennings in Washington for an ABC News poll concerning tonight's debate. And then we'll also be joining Jim Lampley in New York for highlights of today's play.
They're going to get more and more of these kind of flags hanging over the stadium down here if the Cowboys don't do so. This is the first time in 20 years that at the midway point of the season, the opponents have outscored Dallas through the first 7 games. So that means 2 things. They're not scoring, and they're letting other folks do it. See how well I figured that?
I'll tell you.
Anderson with the short kick. They do not want the dangerous men returning the ball. So they kick it in there short. And we get the return from Norm Granger. And that's the end of the first half. The Saints did it on big plays. The key play, a 62-yard touchdown.